is the problem.
A lot of the conflicts we had, he chose to talk to me a certain way that like turned me off. And when he brought them up off camera, he was very aggressive.
Whew. Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Bird 91. We're talking to you guys about Jasmina and Michael, but we're dealing specifically with Jasmina because she, I guess this is a bit of a pattern. The last argument, she also used the fact that your family told me that you were like this and da-da-da-da-da. So she uses information other people have said and kind of uses that against the person in terms of how she views them. And again, it just kind of highlights again that information that anybody shares can be used against you. And so we want to dive a little bit deeper. Does she have a point? Does she have an argument, for say, in this instance with Michael in regards to her point of view, her POV? We're going to discuss that a little bit more as the review goes on. But if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, like it, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is. You got the minerals, baby. Stay hydrated because the streets out there are hot, okay? They are hot. Then hotter. Okay, let's get into the video. So we'll just play a little bit of clip and then we'll get talking about this.
And he was very loud and he had a tone and was very just disrespectful in general. I also know that he's not at a 10 when he's talking to me.
Okay, so she made a complaint that, you know what, she felt like he was loud, aggressive, and, you know, raised, you know, his voice. Okay. Now, from what we've seen, the arguments that have happened on screen, there's not once I've heard him raise his voice. Not once. Now, either he's a very good conniving liar, and obviously, like I've already done a video about the fact that he omitted information, so it's possible he could have done that, or she's interpreting the information from an emotional standpoint due to what she's heard from family, from Pastor Cal. Right? Because I don't think she's necessarily lying about him shouting. I think she's interpreting any raise of volume in that aspect, right? But what we saw in this clip actually was more of Jasmina raising her voice, more of Jasmina having an authoritarian tone on her voice, more of Jasmina being more of the aggressor than Michael. Not saying that Michael hasn't been an aggressor, because we already know he's admitted to having a tone and, you know, being condescending. And in fact, he actually goes on to admit, even during this episode, that yes, if you're talking about his tone, if you're talking about the way he spoke to her, he agrees, he has spoken like that. And he admitted that at the first argument, the second argument he had on the holiday, where he said his tone, he's working on it, his sisters have told him that. But as when it came to the shouting, he denied that. He vehemently defended that point, which is really interesting because that energy wasn't there earlier on when he was talking about why he had lied. But hey ho, you know, he vehemently defended the point that he had shouted at her. Like, he actually cut off Pastor Cal to actually say this. So that showed me again that they're viewing things from two different perspectives. But let's go a bit more.
And it can get worse.
So you're saying that he has the potential to explode and go even ballistic?
He did tell me that that's a problem that he has had in past relationships, and even his family has said he can act that way.
So here's the difficulty. He hasn't done that yet, and yet she's already concluding that he's going to do that, right? And she's saying, based on the information you guys have given me, by yourself, Pastor Cal, by, you know, the family, look, you know, he's got potential to go to 10 and he's not really on 10 right now, you know, etc., right? So I'm looking at it and I'm going to myself again. Remember, and I think as much as Jasmina doesn't mind an argument, I do think she's got a little bit of conflict anxiety and gets a bit anxious when it comes to conflict. What I would say here in this aspect, though, is that, again, just like the argument we saw from the first argument it ever had in the room about people see things differently and she couldn't accept it, we're seeing here again the use of your family told me. Darling, if you keep going down the lane of your family told me you'd be this way, guess what's going to happen? You're going to self-sabotage your relationship. You're going to self-sabotage your own relationship because you keep saying your family told me. Well, the family are not in the relationship right now. You are in this relationship, right? And the problem with Jasmina is she doesn't let things go very easily. She's also not been in a relationship where she's had to live with the person or be up close and personal. She's lived with friends, lived with men, but she's never been up close and personal to her partner. That in itself also is a cause for alarm. Not alarm in terms of bad, but a cause for alarm to say, hey, we got to be very careful and watch how she perceives things, because she might perceive it in a much more different light due to her being in the first time she's been in let's say even being close to her partner like this, because everything's long distance. You know what I mean? All right.
It's almost like, because I told her the fact that, yes, this is something I need to work on, it almost backfired on me, because now she's painting a picture of who I am.
And that's a good point that Michael's making in this particular case, is that once I've said her about my weaknesses, now it seems to be the thing that gets used against me. And we've seen that, right? On 3 occasions now. The first argument, this argument, the last argument in the honeymoon, and now this. The third time it's been used against him about what has been said by family. And if you listen to her very, very carefully, she hasn't witnessed this yet, but she's saying, but he has the potential to go that far, right? Which, first and foremost, everything, we have to be very honest as well. Women's safety is very important. Emotional safety is very important. But the issue is that both of these parties are actually not safe for each other. What they require from each other, they're both having to shift a considerable distance in their own life and sacrifice things to make it work. That's the difficulty.
Michael.
Yes.
Every single time we have a conflict, you yell, and there's no cameras to show that side.
I was not yelling at you.
Now, Michael.
When you watch that clip, tell me, do you think Michael's the one that's doing the shouting behind the scenes? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that people can't lie. We've seen that from undercover, you know what I'm saying? But to paint it as if that, I don't think Jasmine is the only one. I don't think Michael, if Michael's shouting, she's shouting. If Michael's rude, she's being rude. Because we're seeing this energy here right in front of our faces right now. Crossed arms, frown, talking as if you're his mum, that tone. Now, Michael, what we're not about to do here, Michael, as you just heard your principal, what we're not about to do, Michael, right now, is say this story. Because that's not how it went down, is it, Michael? That's how she's talking. Now, that in itself is frustrating and irritating, right? So I'm also inclined to be looking at Jasmina like, hey, baby, look, what are you saying? You know, you're talking about his behavior going from 0 to 10, but I'm looking at you also. I'm looking at you, and I don't see your hands being clean in this, not even close. Your tone here was almost disrespectful in this point too, right?
We're not about to do this.
I'm not.
Here's the thing.
Listen, wait. Sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off.
And if you notice how pressed Michael was, right, about this, like I said, he wasn't pressed like this earlier on when it came to 2 female women that he made a mistake with. But he's saying that he wanted to defend this point vehemently, right? That, you know what, frick it, I'm not going to have this one. This one I'm not going to have, okay? Nobody's yelling at you. Nobody's shouting at you. No one's getting in your face about you. Like, you're going to have to chill. Let's listen a bit more.
Michael.
Yes.
Every single time we have a...
I just want to pause on that. Did you hear the tone? Michael. How many times must I call your name? It's a joke that we have this meme, right, that runs right. That's the Michael, how many times must I call your name? It's an African thing, right? That when your parent calls you, you know when your parent calls you in a certain tone, you're in trouble. Everybody knows the tone. That's the tone she just used. Now, Michael. Like you're about to get beat after if you continue this way. That's what it sounded like. Right?
conflict, you yell, and there's no cameras to show that side.
I was not yelling at you.
Now, Michael, we're not about to do this.
I'm not.
Here's the thing.
Listen, no, wait.
It's looking pretty intense. I think my issue with Jasmina in this particular case, like I said, is, like I said, the biggest issue is that either he's lying because he's vehemently said outright, I'm not yelling. I've never yelled, basically, right? So either he's outright lying, okay, or she's reading way too much into it And also, she can also potentially be lying too. But I'm going to take that she's reading way more into some of the energy than it actually is. I'm not saying, again, that he doesn't get Riley. I'm just saying, but what we've seen, the energy she's put across the screen, I have to ask the question, is he the only one?
Wait. Sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off. If you want to say that I was speaking in a tone that you didn't appreciate, I'll give you that. If you want to say that I was speaking in a condescending tone, I would give you that. But if you're saying that I was yelling at you, that's just not true.
So he's come out straight at the blocks and said, listen, he stopped Pascal, say, hey, Pascal, listen, hey, look, hold up. I don't mind saying about the tone thing. I don't mind saying about maybe the way I speak that's condescending. But what I'm not about to do is admit the fact that I was yelling. That's a very strong argument. I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm just saying it's a very strong argument in terms of him, in terms of what foot he's putting down, right? Because he's blatantly telling her he's not accepting that. That's not what he's doing. I'm not saying it's right either, because we don't know, because we don't get scenes behind the scenes. But so far, from what we've seen in all the arguments with him and her, we've never heard him raise his voice. Never. Even condescending, I haven't really necessarily heard, but in today's episode, when he was being nonchalant and dismissive, but still again, no shouting. So, like I said, if he's shouting behind the scenes, then there's a dark, deep manipulation happening right in front of us. And I'm leaving it open because I can't say for sure if it's not.
Why would I yell at you in that
All
movie?
right, so I'm a liar now. You've been aggressive, you've been yelling, and I'm trying not to get to that point. So I don't appreciate you sitting right here saying that you're not yelling when you've agreed with me that...
Again, he's not denied the tone, but he's saying he's not yelling. And what she ran to is that he's saying I'm a liar. But I don't like this argument of, if I was yelling, I hate that argument. But if I was yelling, and I hate that kind of argument, bro, like that's not it. Right? I don't like the arguments. They're weak for me. Again, but when you listen to the tones that are being spoken about in this scene here, again, who sounds like the aggressor? So is Jasmina aggressive? Is she aggressive? Would she admit to being aggressive? Even look where we're at. Look where the hand is already. Right? Are we talking to a kid or are we talking to an adult when we're talking at the moment? Right? Let's go back a little bit. Go
Appreciate you sitting right here saying that you're not yelling when you've agreed with me that you have been aggressive and your family.
Pause. Did you hear what she said? Listen, words are so important. Her argument was, and this is why I said I don't know if he's yelling or not, but I listened to people's words. She said, you know what, I can't believe whatever she said about beginning, and then she wanted to say, obviously you agreed, and listen to what she said about what you agreed to. She never said about yelling. You agreed that you were aggressive, which he did. We saw that from the episodes beforehand, right? That was when they were sitting in the honeymoon, where he said, okay, do you know what, I'm working on it, but he was talking more about his tone again, right? I don't think he would ever. I don't think he agreed to him being literally aggressive, but I think he agreed to definitely his tone being aggressive. Okay, so what she said here was him being aggressive. Okay, that was what she said. Both Pastor Cal and the family had both said, and he even agreed, but not the yelling. That's what this are her own words. I'm not saying anything different than what her own words are. Let's go back. If you want to go back, let's go back to this one. She said, listen to what she said.
Appreciate you sitting right here saying that you're not yelling when you've agreed with me that you have been aggressive and your family agreed.
No. Aggressive? I've never used that word.
So he also said he's not using the word aggressive. I think if I remember the second argument, it was more about the fact that his tone was off, which that's what he apologized for, right? But she did mention him being aggressive at that point there as well. Now, I don't think any of them are necessarily lying. I think what's happening is both parties are seeing from their perspective. I think both parties are reading the situation from their perspective. I see more aggression in this scene. I see more aggression from Jasmina than I see from him. And actually, to be honest, we've seen that in all the arguments that have happened, Jasmina has been far more aggressive. And I won't even say that she's that aggressive, to be honest. But she's been far more aggressive in the argument pursuit than he has. But again, we don't know what happens behind the scenes. I'm always open to the fact that he may be a cold ass manipulator, that when the screens go off, that's when the real behavior begins. Right? He may be one of those people.
I lied about that one piece. I didn't be honest about everything else.
You wasn't honest about your roommates.
Okay, listen, here's what we're gonna do.
And that's the difficulty. See, when you were right, Michael, right? You have been honest. Whenever you're wrong, you say that you're wrong. But then in a roommate situation, you weren't honest. And that now makes it very, and this is why honesty and being integral by being honest or being truthful or being transparent is so key, because when you are having these arguments, you can use that as a thing. Hey, look, you guys know I've never lied about this situation. If it comes out and it's bad, I say, well, it is what it is. If it's good, it comes out and I say, well, it is what it is, right? But you have a prior now on your mark with lying, or sorry, I said lying, omission of lying, right? There's omission or lying. I want to, whichever you feel like using. And that wasn't long ago. And you weren't honest about that. So now using the argument about I'm always quite honest, it can't actually run no more, because you spoke it with not being honest, not being transparent, and not forthcoming with the information about your roommates.
Y'all gonna have to listen to me. Because here's the thing. I want to talk about your communication, why it's not working.
And this is the point. They're struggling for coverage. They're struggling for, they both want to feel secure and cared for. And what they need from each other is not given. It's not given. So, in this particular aspect, when they're talking, I saw more aggression from Jasmina than I did see from him. You know what I mean? So unless he's a cold-ass manipulator, which we could see in the next few weeks, I'm inclined to say I'm not feeling Jasmina's style of communication when it comes to her feelings. Whenever she feels pissed off or annoyed, we get the mum tone, we get the telling off tone. And if he then starts saying the same thing back to her, does she see it as aggressive? Does she see it as him, going from 0 to 10? I don't know. I mean, it's a bit much.
Okay. Honesty and transparency are key when it comes to communication in marriage. You understand that, don't you, Michael?
Yeah.
Their arguments get intense because they're both stubborn. Their arguments get intense. I can tell their arguments get intense because they're both stubborn. You know what I'm saying? And that goes again. Remember, Jasmina thinks she doesn't do anything wrong. We saw that from last episode. She doesn't think she does anything wrong. So will she admit if she did something wrong? Did we hear her admit anything that she had done wrong in this relationship so far? Has she admitted ever putting a step wrong in a relationship so far? No. I'm not saying anything else. We'll leave it there. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notifications of the uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked and stay loaded. Little black, you know what time.